Do you love fudge but are afraid to try making it? I'm Marcy McDonald with Pacific Northwest Suburban Homesteading. This week, Shonna, our remote homestead accomplice, will show you how you can take a few simple ingredients, a little imagination, and solid technique to make foolproof fudge.
Since so many of you enjoyed our previous candy making class where we learned how to make nut clusters and candied almonds and butter almond toffee, I'm back with another simple, easy candy recipe you can make at home. Fudge. Everybody knows what fudge is. It is this dense, creamy, sweet, soft, buttery, delicious confection. Traditional fudge recipes were actually just sugar, butter, and milk. So if you think of fudge as chocolatey, that's actually a flavoring that was added later. But I say chocolate fudge for the win. The other interesting thing about traditional fudge recipes is that they are extremely temperamental. You could make a batch of fudge exactly as the recipe states, but it could completely fail simply because there's too much humidity in the air. So I'm going to give you a modern twist on fudge making. This is called Foolproof Fudge, and it's called that because it will work no matter the weather. I say foolproof with air quotes because, to quote the incredible author Douglas Adams, the problem with calling something foolproof is that you have underestimated the abilities of complete fools. And yes, there is a complete fool standing somewhere between here and here who has made this recipe many times. I have found there are a couple pitfalls that can be easily avoided, so I'm here to share all of those tips and tricks with you. Otherwise, this is a simple recipe that can be completed in about 15 minutes from start to finish, not including the time it takes to chill. So what does foolproof fudge need? As far as ingredients, you need 1 2/3 cup of sugar, 2/3 cup of evaporated milk. You need 6 ounces, which is 1 cup of chocolate chips or candy melts or almond bark. In this case, today I am going to be using peppermint candy melts. Simple recommendation is whatever they are, whether it's chocolate chips, use the mini ones, whether it's almond bark or these candy melts, chop them into small pieces just so they melt quicker. You're also going to need 1.5 cups of marshmallows. Now, you can use the jumbo ones, you can use the mini ones, it doesn't matter. But again, as far as for speed of melting, I would take these jumbo ones if you're using them and just tear them into smaller pieces. There are recipes that also use marshmallow fluff. Those work just fine too. I'm just making one with marshmallows because that's what I had in my pantry. You're also going to need a dash of salt, 4 tablespoons of butter. Again, I have chopped it up into smaller pieces just so it melts quicker. And then optionally, 1/8 teaspoon of your choice of flavor. In addition, you can do mix-ins like 1/2 cup of nuts or shredded coconut, or you can top it with something. In this case, because I am using peppermint chips, I'm going to be topping it with chopped, crushed peppermint candy canes. This is an incredible, versatile recipe, meaning you can do just about any flavor. If you want to use chocolate chips, you can use milk chocolate, you can use dark chocolate, you can use semi-sweet, you can use what's called white chocolate. There's a debate whether or not you can actually call that chocolate. It does have cocoa butter in it, so it does come from the cacao plant, but it may not have enough to officially call it chocolate. I'm just going to say white chocolate just for the sake of everybody knows what I'm talking about, instead of saying white vanilla baking chips. You can use any sort of flavoring you want. I have a dash of peppermint extract, but I have found that one of the best flavor combinations I ever made was white chocolate and orange flavoring. Go wild. Whatever flavors you want to come up with. The only time I ever had something not taste right was when I used peanut butter chips. I believe it was because it was an artificially flavored peanut butter chip and it just didn't taste good. One of the pitfalls that I had was not using quality ingredients. So be very, very careful. I'm going to talk a couple things through. First of all, evaporated milk. not sweetened condensed milk. Those are two different things. Basically, they start the same, where they have taken about 60% of the liquids out of milk, evaporated it. That's what they call the evaporated milk. Sweetened condensed milk has about 40% of its final weight coming from added sugar. We don't need that. That will actually make the recipe turn out wrong. Make sure that you have evaporated milk. My biggest ingredients-based failure, not counting the really weird flavor of the peanut butter chips, was a time that I used an off-brand of white chocolate chips that I noticed they were kind of soft even at room temperature, which probably means they had a lot of liquid oil in the manufacturing process. I didn't think much of it, but what I found out at the end was that it just didn't set up well. It had the texture of peanut butter. Now, fudge should be firm, should hold its shape. Peanut butter does not hold its shape. But I am a great believer that if you don't tell someone you made a mistake, quite often they won't realize that you made a mistake. So I took that peanut buttery texture fudge, I got some sugar cookies, and I frosted them with that soft fudge. Everybody enjoyed it a lot. As far as they knew, I meant to do that, and it came off perfectly. Now for your equipment, you're going to need a good saucepan that's at least 2-quart capacity. The ingredients will foam up quite a bit as we're cooking them, so you want to make sure that the pot is big enough to keep it from boiling over. At least 2 quarts. Something to stir with, and a heat-proof scraper of some sort to get it out of the pot when we are done. Last thing you're going to need is some sort of pan. You can use a loaf pan. This would make probably about half full on this, so you could slice it if you wanted to wrap slices and give them to people as gifts. I'm going to use a square cake pan because I want it thinner, spread out more, so I can cut it into bite-sized squares. So step 1, we're just going to put a very light coating of oil. Just rub that around. That's set, and we're ready to go. The one other place that this recipe can go wrong is in a very important instruction. While you're cooking this, you will stir constantly. By that I mean, you're in there, you're stirring the pan, scraping the bottom, the whole thing, around and around the whole time you're doing this. Sugar and milk, when they're cooked, if they're not constantly kept moving, they can crystallize, they can caramelize, they can set up in ways that you don't want. You can get a very grainy, dry texture out of it, which is not necessarily a failure because it's actually very similar to a confection in Scotland called tablet. And if that piques anyone's interest, drop me a message and I will be happy to make that for you too. In the meantime, we're going to be stirring this constantly from the time the heat comes on until the time that it goes in the pan. Your arm will get tired. It's a good workout. Now, that also means that if you have to stop for just a second to adjust the heat, or if it starts to boil over and you need to pick it up off the heat, a few seconds pause is fine, but you don't want to stop stirring and walk away. That is the biggest point where this fool can prove that this is not totally foolproof. But here we go. 1 2/3 cup sugar, 2/3 cup evaporated milk. We're going to stir this together and bring it up to a boil over medium-high heat. And when it reaches that boil, you're going to keep it boiling and keep it stirring constantly for 5 minutes. And like I said, your arm is probably going to get tired. Fortunately, I just took up boxing for fitness, so this is actually a good workout for me. Medium-high. And we're going to stir it until the sugar dissolves and it comes to a boil. I'm going to preset my timer to 5 minutes so that when it reaches a boil, I can just hit go. So you can see my stirring technique. Now, some people hold the spoon this way, some people hold the spoon this way, some people hold the spoon this way. Doesn't matter how you hold it, as long as you can maintain that and keep it stirring all the way around the pot. That includes all the edges, all the way across the middle, in all directions. You don't want to just stir it, you don't want to just tickle it. You want to really get in there and stir everything. It could scorch if you don't, which if you have burned the milk and burned the sugar, it's a lost cause, and you just have to toss that one out. And I can see right around the edges, it is just starting to boil. And it's going to boil very quickly. Sugar boils in a different way than water does. And we're going to start our 5-minute timer. And as you can see, it's already foaming up. Look at that. So if that does that, lift it away from the heat just a little bit, just to get it under control. It's still over the heat, it's still boiling. I could also turn this down a little bit, but you notice that I'm not stopping stirring for more than a few seconds at a time. Now it's been going for 3 minutes and it's not quite as foamy, even though it's still boiling. It is thickening up a little bit. The sugar and the milk are changing with the heat. That is what we want. Okay, 5 minutes are up. Turn off the heat. If it's a gas burner, you can just turn off the heat and the heat is gone. If standard electric stove, you're going to actually want to move it off because those retain heat. You want to take it away from the heat, and now you want to work fairly quickly because as the heat that's in this pot is what's going to help us next. We're going to add our 6 ounces or 1 cup of candy melt, marshmallows, our butter, a dash of salt, and just a few drops of whatever flavoring, 1/8 of a teaspoon. That is optional, you don't have to do that, but there you go. And now, what makes fudge, whether it's a traditional recipe or this, is that it is beaten until it is smooth. You could do this with an electric mixer if you want to, but fudge has a lot of calories, so I'm gonna burn them off now. Keep stirring until everything is melted, including the marshmallows, which is why I recommend everything be diced up into smaller bits so it melts more quickly. All right, that is nice and smooth and everything is melted. If you are adding mix-ins that were going to be incorporated into the fudge, like nuts or coconut, or in some cases dried fruit, you would add it now after all of the chips and marshmallows are melted, and you would stir it in. You could, at this point, even add another handful of miniature marshmallows and not stir it until it melts, but just fold it in carefully with some walnuts, and you would have Rocky Road fudge. But I'm going to do sprinkles on top, so what I'm going to do now is just pour this into my oiled pan. And while it's still hot and fairly liquid, I'm going to sprinkle my toppings on. And if you're worried about them sticking, just kind of pat them in very gently with a back of a spoon. And this is ready to go into the refrigerator for a couple hours to set up. A quick test, if you've got a little left maybe in the pot or a little spoon, you can cool it down a little more quickly and see if it's going to set up. But I can already tell this is going to be pretty good. So we'll check back in a few hours. So it's been about 5 hours now that I've put the fudge into the refrigerator. To get it out of the pan, it sometimes is a little sticky. It doesn't always want to come out. So what I'm doing right now is heating up a pan of hot water that I'm going to set the fudge pan in for a few minutes just to loosen it up a little bit. I'm not doing boiling water. It just needs to be warm to hot. You don't want to have such a temperature differential between the hot water and your cold fudge that the thermal shock might make your dish shatter. So it's warm, but it's not so hot that it's burning my hand, so that's about right. Let's take a look at the fudge. Okay. Nice and firm, good set on it. So I'm just going to carefully set it in here. Just a little bit. You don't want it so deep that the water spills into your pan either, so be careful. Give it just a minute. And to help it come out of the pan, once it's warmed up a little bit, just grab yourself a butter knife and just cut around the edges, just to free it up from the pan. If a little piece breaks off, you've got a perfect taste test. Yep, that worked. Still doesn't want to come out. Give it another minute. And sometimes you might have to use a turner to coax it out a little bit. It is a sticky dish. And there we go. Like I said, a few little crumbs for the cook. And this is ready to slice. And so now it's firm enough to cut with a regular knife. And as I said earlier, I'm just cutting this into bite-sized pieces because I'm bringing it as snacks to a party later. So there you have it. Super simple, super easy, super delicious, and super impressive. Foolproof fudge. I would love to hear what combinations you come up with, whether it's your traditional chocolate flavor or the, as I said, the orange and white chocolate, coconut and dried pineapple. I've had one time that had dried cherries and almonds in it. Be creative. You can do just about anything with this. Enjoy.